Matches your necklace.
What, on purpose? Bring out the purple in my dress, there is some.
I had checkbooks.
So how are you liking your change?
Love it.
We're going to begin in like 30 seconds. Please ensure your cell phones are on, vibrate, or silent. Council members, ensure your microphones are turned on.
I have laminated, that's just that regular tape, that's what I do, so I don't ruin them, you know, that big tape.
Packing
Because
tape,
it
yeah.
would've got lost.
That's a sign of it.
Yeah, sometimes. We'll get through it.
You need to bring the cleats down and let you put the bottom in the
He had, they were, the 14 and the dog, he had line.
Lane.
Uh-huh.
Same thing. I actually, I was
Well,
sending you
that's
that
good
from
Sam.
I'm getting
That
that.
one had 3 catches, you know, like he had maybe he was blinded.
Yours is like, there's from it. I got 17 matches. They don't get it until October.
They didn't know. Purple, white. That's fine.
Hey,
It worked.
All right. Today is Monday, September 19th, 2022. Today is a committee of the whole meeting. Before we begin the committee of the whole meeting, we're going to do our individual committee meetings this evening. And we will start with street, sidewalk, and lighting with Mrs. Angela.
Thank you, Mr. President. I'd like to bring to order the Street, Sidewalk, and Lighting Committee meeting. All my members are present. I'm Chair, Erica Bailey, and Shorter Griffin. All council members are present, and guests as noted on my sheet. We do have one request for legislation, and it is a letter from Mike Teodecki, city engineer, requesting legislation to enter into contract with Timeline Construction, LLC, in the amount of $223,560 for the 2022 sidewalk replacement program. And we are asking for emergency wording in order to execute the contract so we can get started with the construction this year. This is to replace substandard sidewalks and drive approaches at commercial and residential owner-occupied and or non-owner occupied, which would be would be rental. This construction it's a necessary improvement. If you saw some of the sidewalks, the property owner can elect to either pay for their portion of the cost or have the cost plus interest assessed over a 5-year period for their portion of the work. There were 3 bids that were submitted, and Timeline was the best and lowest bid. Are there any questions from the committee? Any questions from council? Mrs. Fry?
I just want to know how you're marketing it so that it gets out there in the community.
Well, first off, we had the downtown blitz where we went through and looked at the outside of all the buildings in the downtown area, and they were cited for things wrong with the outside of the building and the sidewalk portion. So more than 100 parcels already received paperwork stating that they had sidewalk that was deemed in violation of code. From that, we had a public meeting of which quite a few business owners showed up to the public meeting. And actually, in part, it was their idea to bid a job to help keep the cost down so that they would sign on and have this work done throughout the downtown area. So the commercial portion of it, I think we've already done a pretty good job of getting the word out. That being said, we're reaching out first to all the people that went to the meeting that signed up for the sidewalk, and we're knocking on the door with a estimate of cost of what it would be for them to sign on to get this program to fix the sidewalk. In addition to that, those that weren't at the meeting, we're still reaching out to every single one of them that we've sent the information to them that their sidewalk was in violation. to better explain the program, to let them know they're still responsible to repair their sidewalk. And we're offering this program to provide that mechanism for them to make the repairs, because it's a pretty good deal that we got great pricing to get the sidewalk fixed. So residents, every year there has been a residential sidewalk program, and at this point in time, we haven't done a formal press release or anything like that to get the word out, but throughout the year, numerous people call up looking for ways to get their sidewalk repaired. We have that list. We're individually, now that we bid this, reaching out to those residents that have called in or expressed an interest. And, you know, while money lasts with the quantities we put together in this program, we're trying to get those residents also informed of the program and get signed up.
Thank you, Mike.
I saw on this that the engineer's estimate timeline is even less than the engineer's estimate. Is that
That's
unusual?
correct. That's what I said. We did receive pretty good bids on this program, and Timeline is a pretty good sized company. They research shows that they do a really good job, and I think they gave us some really good prices trying to get their foot in the door with doing work in Barberton. So
Right.
hopefully we can capitalize on the good pricing and get a lot of work done this year.
Yeah, great. Any other questions, Mr. Height?
Thank you, Chair. I've got 4 questions, but they're also 4 quick answers.
Okay.
With the assessed over 5-year plus interest, do we know the interest rate?
Mr. Flaker, would you know that?
Well, if it's being assessed as property tax, there is no interest rate. Basically, when we assess something to property tax, we're dividing that payment up over the 5 years, so it would be 10 equal payments to some account. So really, there's no
No interest.
interest assessed onto that. If anything, there's possibly an administrative fee of filing, and that's about it.
Okay. The next one is do we have a percentage for the city versus private?
Based on the bid items for the work that we're doing, such as sidewalk, it's 60-40. 60% is the property owner's responsibility, 40% is our responsibility, other than mobilization, contract, performance bond, those kind of things that aren't necessarily concrete in place.
Okay. The next one, if passed, when would the application process open for residential?
It's open.
It's been open.
Anybody interested, give the building department a call at any point in time, or myself, and we'll go out, visit them, explain the program with the paperwork for them to sign up.
And lastly, with the residential portion of it there, is there once you have people that apply, is there a priority list of what's worse than the others? Like if we run out of money, who's going to go first?
Usually, the order we receive the applications, we will go out and get them to sign on. First to sign up, we're going to put them in the stack and try and make a reasonable location with the contractor so they're not bouncing from one end of town to the other. But we're going to try and get as many as we receive, pretty much in the order we receive. Those remaining, I'm requesting council in next year's budget to allow some monies to be spent to continue this program, not only for commercial but residential. So as we pull in the applications, by the end of the year, we should know how much money to at least catch up if we need to catch up.
Is it fair to say it's almost a first come, first serve for the residential part?
Yes.
Okay. That's all I have. Thank you, Councilor.
Okay, and I have a question. Some of the sidewalks that are uplifted because of a tree in the Devil Strip, you know, we had a program years ago where the city would cut down the tree, but the homeowner would have to take care of the root, you know, the trunk in it. What is that procedure?
The responsibility of the tree is still upon
Homeowners.
the homeowner to take care of the tree and the root system. Our project has an allowance that we can work with our sub to help contract and help take care of that, but they're still responsible for the tree.
Because that's the question I get about the tree. You know, I didn't plant it, it's on the devil strip, it's not mine. And so they don't want to go on the, the sidewalk program, so. Okay, any other questions from the galley? No? All right, do I have a motion to call for this?
I'll make a motion.
Mr. Bailey, do I have a second?
Second.
Mr. Griffin, all in favor?
Aye.
Miscellaneous discussion, the street program, the resurfacing is going full, and the Robinson Avenue Bridge is looking pretty good.
So,
Anything new?
if you would like, I can go ahead and give you a paving update.
Yes,
Last
please.
Friday, Rick Parker, our inspector, he emailed me. So his email last Friday said lots of progress. As of this evening, the following streets have resurfacing complete: Wilbur, Brady, Raymond, Benton, 25th Southwest, 21st Southwest, 28th Northwest, and 18th Southwest. All residents have driveway access except for East Ford. They've been working on tearing approaches out on East Ford, and then they will start putting the scratch coats back and redoing those. Monday, Perrin, so being today, Perrin was scheduled to resume drive apron removal, and then milling on Evergreen should happen this week, so we'll be up on Evergreen. So that was the update from Rick last Friday.
Can you send that list?
Yes,
I can.
You said it very fast.
very fast.
But like,
I heard 25th
that was very good.
Southwest. Yeah. Like, I got about 4 out of it.
I know, we
said.
were all looking at each other like, oh my gosh, it was very fast. No, you're fine, that's
Yeah,
fine.
if you could just send that updated list, that would be great, and then that way we would have it in case any of our constituents call or anything of that sort. Thank you, Mrs. Bailey.
Mhm.
Oh, Mr. Moorhead wants it too, huh?
You want to?
Any other questions? No? Do I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
I'll second that.
Griffin, Mrs. Bailey, and we are adjourned at 6:11. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Angela. Next up is Environmental Health and Social Services with Mrs. Bailey.
Thank you, Mr. President. I would like to call to order the Committee of Environmental Health and Social Services. It's 6:12 p.m. I am the chair. Mr. Jaber and Mrs. Angeloff are also part of the committee. All members, other council members are present, and all others are as noted on my sheet. We have no new topics of requested legislation and no new pending legislation. I'll open this up for miscellaneous discussion. I did want to bring up the mosquito abatement committee did not happen last month. I think that there were scheduling issues with the board members, but it is actually going to be Tuesday at 5:30 this coming week, the 27th. So I'll make sure to post that on the Barberton social media page too, in case anyone wants to attend. And I'll be sending notes from that. Any other miscellaneous discussion? All right. Do I have a motion to adjourn?
I'll make that motion.
We are adjourned at 6:13 p.m.
Thank you, Mrs. Bailey. Next up is Planning and Annexation and Codes with Mrs. Thompson.
Thank you, Mr. President. I'd like to bring the Planning, Annexation, and Codes Committee meeting to order. It is Monday, September 19th, 6:14 p.m. here in council chambers. All members of the committee are present, which includes Mrs. Angeloff, Mr. Jaber, and President Greer, and then myself as chair. All other council members are present, and any guests noted on my sheet. We have no new requests for legislation, nor any pending legislation. I will open this up for a miscellaneous discussion from the committee. Mr. Jaber?
Thank you, Chair. We talked to Mr. Heidig, Mr. Greer. Any updates on Fake Gym, who the new owner is, or any permits pulled up on that?
I haven't heard anything personally. Mr. Hunt, is there anything you can share about the Faith Gym?
I heard it was purchased. I heard a young couple purchased it, and then I heard a conflicting story about someone else that purchased it. So
Okay.
I have not been contacted by anyone.
Okay,
Just a couple people.
we'll keep an eye on it.
Thank you.
Okay, yep. Any other miscellaneous discussion from other council members, from the gallery? All right, hearing none, can I have a motion to adjourn, please?
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
Thank you, Mrs. Angela. And Mr. Zuber. We are adjourned at 6:15.
Thank you, Ms. Thompson. Last but not least, finance personnel with Mr. Heidick.
Thank you, Mr. President. Finance and Personnel, it is 6:15. It is Monday, September 19th, 2022. We are in council chambers. The committee is present, which consists of Councilors Coburn, Thompson, President Greer, and myself as chair. All others noted. We have a couple of requests tonight. First one, letter from Jeremy Flaker, Finance Director, requesting a resolution accepting the rates and amounts of property tax as determined by the Summit County Budget Commission for 2023. Emergency wording requested. Director, any comments?
No, you'll notice there's not a big increase from last year to this year. I want to say it's only about $3,000 of an increase.
All right, are there any comments from the committee? From the body? Gallery? Seeing none, do I have a motion to call for this?
I'll make that motion.
Thank you.
I'll second.
Thank you. Those in favor?
Aye.
Next is a letter from Jeremy Flaker, the Finance Director, requesting resolution authorizing the advance of local taxes by the County Fiscal Office for 2022 tax year payable in 2023. Emergency wording requested. Director, any comments there?
Just a procedural thing that needs to get passed.
Any comments on that from anyone? From the gallery? Do I have a motion to call for this?
I'll make that motion.
Thank you.
I'll second that.
Thank you. Those in favor?
Aye.
Next is from Don Patterson, Parks Director, requesting legislation to appropriate $25,000 from the unappropriated item of the general fund to the park maintenance capital budget of the general fund to refurbish basketball courts at McCafferty Park. Emergency wording requested. This is referred from Parks. Councilor Jaber went over that one last week. Is there any comments? Gallery? Do I have a motion to call for this?
I'll make that motion.
Thank you.
I'll second.
Thank you. Those in favor?
Aye.
So, next up is the finance report. Director, the floor is yours.
Thank you. Starting off with the health insurance fund, in the month of August, our revenues were $399,000, expenditures $357,000, giving us an unexpended fund balance of $1,639,000. Our net year-to-date is a positive $220,000 for that fund. Moving on to the income tax fund, our estimate for the month of August was $969,000. Our actuals came in at just shy of $1.25 million. We are over our estimate by $919,000. We have about $2.5 million left to transfer to the general fund. I have checked in with Rita on why we're ahead of our estimates. Some of it has to deal with just the collection timing between Rita and CCA. That's part of it. So when we do our estimate, we always base the estimate on the past 10 years average collection for each month. So like we might have 8% of the collections for the year comes in the month of August or something. And that's how we divvy this stuff up. So it could just be from the timing of collections where maybe Rita's getting payments in a little bit sooner than CCA. So our 10-year average could be a little off right now. I have also looked, a lot of businesses here in town are up in the withholdings. That's where a lot of this increase is coming from, is in the withholding section. And I noticed a lot of businesses are just up in the withholdings category. It's not just one business, it's not just two businesses, it's a lot of businesses here in town are up, and spreading that small amount over a large amount of businesses is driving part of that too. So it's all good things. So I'll continue to monitor it, and if I do see something unusual, I'll let council know, but as of right now, a lot of it's just coming from the holdings and it's from a lot of the businesses just here in town. So it's a good thing, seeing that growth. So moving on to the next is the statement of cash receipts and disbursements. We have a few funds in the negative. The first one is Fund 221, the sports complex operating. That is in the negative. I'm hoping that maybe we have a couple more tournaments here between now and the end of the year to get that out of the negative. If not, I will have to transfer some money from income tax to get that out of the negative. Next fund in the negative is the FEMA fund, Fund 239. That's only in the negative. That's the fund we're using for the stormwater mitigation, so 14, 15, and Arthur. So once we expend the money, we can then go to FEMA and ask for reimbursement. Next fund in the negative is the CDBG fund, Fund 250. Same thing, that's the federal HUD program. So once we expend the money, we can file with HUD on getting the reimbursement for that. Then the final fund that's in the negative is the internal cost allocation fund on the next page, Fund 663. That's only in the negative due to the encumbrance outstanding for fuel. So as I've mentioned before, once we do those chargebacks to the departments for their fuel costs, that will keep that cash balance about the same, but that encumbrance will keep going down, so that fund will get out of the negative as each month goes by. Looking at the last 3 months of activity, you will notice in the general fund, that jumped up in the month of July, and that is due to us charging wages of police and fire to the ARPA funds for the lost revenue, and then you guys restricting those funds. So that fund got that jumped up by that. Moving on to special revenues, you notice it decreased. Once again, it's just that the ARPA funds. Moving on to enterprise funds, that has gone up slightly. All other funds continues on its steady increase of about $300,000 each month. Comparing last August to this August, you'll notice the general fund cash balance is higher this year than last year. Once again, that is due to the ARPA funds. The special revenue funds has stayed about the same. Enterprise funds has decreased slightly. A lot of that has to do with us paying down some of the loans in the notes that we issued at the beginning of the year. We had a pay down of some of that, so that's why that is down from last year. All other funds, you'll notice is up by about $400,000 compared to $450,000 from last year. Any questions?
Yes, Jeremy?
Yes.
On the FEMA,
Yes.
on Arthur Avenue there, do you have any kind of timeline when those homes will be demolished, torn down? I get a lot of questions about that from the
Do you
neighbors.
guys have any idea of when Arthur's getting torn down?
We do, and I can forward you that information. I don't remember. I'll check tomorrow.
Okay. I get a
It's
lot
a
of
pretty short
feedback.
timeline. Once it's approved, we have a pretty short timeline, and we work directly with the demolition contractor that's already secured pricing, and it's a pretty quick process. But I'll get you a better idea of the when.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions?
Thank you, Director. Given that, do I have a motion to call for the approval of the finance report?
I'll make that motion.
Thank you.
I'll second.
Thank you. Those in favor?
Aye.
Does anybody have miscellaneous discussion from anyone in the committee or the body? From the gallery? I do have one thing. Director Flaker, would you and the mayor be able to provide the spreadsheet for the ARPA monies where we started where we're at with allocations and where the allocations are? Thank you. And seeing nothing else, do I have a motion to adjourn?
I'll make that motion.
Thank you.
I'll second.
Thank you. We are adjourned at 6:25.
Thank you, Mr. Heidick. That concludes the individual committee meetings for this evening. We're going to take probably a 3-minute break, and then we'll come back and start the committee of the whole this evening. Thanks.
3 minutes.
Yeah, I know we're ready to go. So make sure that-
3 minutes.
Hey, yeah.
3 minutes.
Right, what, now you have two.
You just continue.
Cannot find them anywhere near there, just too many. Weeds Market was the last place that had them.
Hey, they sold.
Did they finally sell them?
Did they sell it? Really? Yeah.
You know what it's gonna do? They're not gonna raise it, are they?
And the person that got it has plans. I shouldn't speak yet because he hasn't bought a plan.
It's gonna be a good thing.
Yeah, it's gonna be a good thing, yeah. And a good thing for Carol, yeah, you know, that was their retirement, you know. So, glad for them.
I retired with my Greg goes, do you know you have 4 by 8 sheets of plywood back here? Don't touch it. That's right, I have them hidden.
It might be even real wood instead of pressed wood.
Well, where they at? And I'm also sending 4 boxes of 410 to keep my
I'll tell Craig, I'll say, hey, I'll split the cost, split the difference. I'll go to keep you busy.
I asked him if you showed up out there, he goes, no, they were having a great time.
No, I'm not sure
I need to do something.
Yeah, how's your chiropractor going?
It was good, I'm still sore. It was like,
But just because of, well, what kind of pain were you having? Because I'm still having mine.
This pen stopped working halfway. No, it just started again. I had to just give it. A little elbow grease.
Oh, trust me, after that would be good.
wrapped around. That was like that. It wasn't sharp, it was just a constant sharp.
You do? I love that. Mine will be sharp.
I like stripes.
And it's really, I'm not having, I'm
And
not
it just
walking well.
It just drives you crazy. It just and then the other day, the soreness went away, then that happened, then the numbness went away. And I was still having trouble walking.
I'm afraid to go. Somebody was telling me, oh, I went and I was doing really good until I got hurt, and I thought, well, I don't know. I don't know if I want to do that.
Now it's just right above my lower.
Well, yeah, because all the nerves have been disrupted and they're saying, feed me, feed
And then I
me.
started walking, I started putting my legs up and it's going on.
It's going, yeah, mine is shooting down this side because of throwing that lump. You know, I was throwing them like twisting and throwing. Then, just makes me
Yeah, I have the hard cast one on Wednesday.
How long did it be on?
4 weeks.
wait till I take it darker. He's up.
Are you going to do that?
Thinking about it.
Well, I'll just say one thing. The growth, you know, the growth. I'm not worried about it.
That's what the kids do.
As much with this color, I don't think.
My natural color is probably closer to Justin's. The brown part, not the gray part.
Mine's pretty dark, my real color.
Dark brown, like an auburn gray.
Well, mine wouldn't take color anymore. That's what happened with me.
I started highlighting it.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I graduated, then I graduated last year.
And then Jerry was I'm gonna go back to my natural color.
That's okay.
What color would that be?
Yeah, because I remember.
I didn't say anything.
That's me.
Tonight is general, but legislation is only on what we're voting on.
Yeah, what else can you do?
You gotta eat too.
Gotta eat. Well, I don't have no problem there.
You know what, I never closed mine until I had to.
That's Monday.
You just say you were on a diet, that's why you're drinking a baby pop.
83 when he passed, and was probably
You run live like
40% right.
You can't let people know you're on a diet.
How dare they know?
Wow. Before work?
in the morning.
No, you didn't.
Should've
Where?
gave it to you.
There's cameras. We're gonna have to see proof of that.
I didn't think so.
No, I don't think.
Yeah, we did,
It better be like a bouncy video of you sprinting over the track.
Well,
Right.
And you did a live video.
That's what
right,
I
finance, parks.
Oh yeah, it didn't work. You don't have cell
And we
service.
voted on it, yeah.
Yeah.
It is, I just referenced it. So
From,
I was like, but I would also, I had a,
Water line. And then.
We voted on everything we had brought up since our last meeting.
do they have any pending on last week?
Then I'll bring my iPad.
That's all I was doing. Was up with that.
My son Jeremy went home
Oh, good feedback.
due to that heart-rending family event. I'll be off from the
Yeah, I didn't listen.
And I went back home. I'm out.
Really convenient.
I got it. They look like reports already.
Heart attack, 36 years old.
You have a mistake.
Yeah, fix it. That's right, yeah.
They have a number they want.
This guy was
Like
done.
70?
I just referenced it, so.
Oh my gosh, the one by the one is like, yeah, it's like 105. I'm like, I can't pay 105 for
Oh yeah, that's why I said I haven't paid for it for 6 years.
Oh, was it included in your fee?
All right, we're gonna begin.
I will negotiate that. I'm not dealing with that ever again. And free car washes.
Today is Monday, September 19th, 2022. This is a committee of the whole meeting. I call this meeting to order at 6:33 PM. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance.
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Citizens addressing council. I just checked it. I didn't see anything else up there other than Mr. Gibson. Step up to the podium, state your name, your address, and what you'll be speaking about. You have 5 minutes.
Hi, I'm Dan Gibson. I'm at 185 North Van Buren Avenue, Ward 2. I've been there for 20 years, and I over the years have had some issues with the water line at my house. They've had to come out and replace the water line from fire hydrant at Castle up to my house twice. And then recently, we had another issue where the water line had just, come undone from the connection at the house. I've had to replace my water heater in the 20 years I've been there, going on the 4th time now, because of dirty water and, whatever goes along with it. I know at one point, before they replaced the line the first time, there was a temporary rubber hose that was attached to the line at Castle, all the way going to my house, that had disintegrated. and that's what caused them to have to replace the line. I guess the second time they came in to replace the line, it turns out they only replaced half the line. And again, so this last time, the reason I'm here is the water line from the street to the house had just come undone. Since they went in and replaced it, the water department didn't bother to put any cones or anything in front of the line where also my mailbox stands. My mailbox has been in that same position, from what I understand, a good 60 years. And I have gone around with the post office several times about where the mailbox should be, because carriers cannot seem to drive in an appropriate manner to where they're not tearing up the yard, either on one side of the driveway or the other. I have them drop off the road at times all the way down where the neighbor's property connects to ours, and will ride the road in our yard all the way up to the mailbox. They will park in front, drive past the mailbox and tear that up. Okay, I've kind of let that slide and what have you, it happens. But after this last repair from the water department, the mail carriers have driven through the sand, because there's about this much sand that they dumped in front of the property to prepare it for the dirt that would go on top of it and then to seed it. Twice now, the mail carriers, who are fully aware, you can clearly see that there's a problem, whether those cones are there or not, have ripped the cap that goes on the water line that goes down into the ground completely off. They've ran it over to the point where the water workers would have to come and pull it out of the ground, where it's just mangled, and they've had to replace it. Just in the last month, they've been up there twice now, and I don't know what to do. I work with the water company and have to file a complaint just to get them to come up here and cone it off. I talked to the mail carriers personally, and then I've gone down to the post office and tried to speak with someone there, but they refuse to return my calls, or they take my name and number and no one ever calls me back. I've gone to the postmaster and have gotten very little action or response. And this is kind of my last resort. I'm not really sure where to go, because my biggest fear is they're going to tear up the water line that goes from the house to the street, which I'm responsible for. And I don't want to have to pay for that. I know some of you might know my house as the house that has the dead end cemetery every year. So it's not like people know who I am or where I live. And, it's all rock. The property stands, this high off above the road with nothing but boulders on it. And I don't want to pay to have that roof dug up or whatever. It's already got a copper line going into the house. So I would appreciate it if we could find a way to make it so I don't have to worry about that situation. So that's my problem.
All right. Well, thank you, Mr. Gibson. Do you have anything else?
That'd be it.
All right. Be sure to reach out to Councilwoman Angeloff,
Okay.
and she'll make sure that you're taken care of,
I
represented.
appreciate it.
Right.
Thank you.
All right. There is no more citizens addressing council, so we're going to go into our committee reports for this evening. We're going to start with street, sidewalk, and lighting with Mrs. Angela.
Thank you, Mr. President. Streets, sidewalk, lighting met this evening at 6 o'clock. All members of the committee were present. All council members were present, and guests as noted on my sheet. We had one piece of legislation, requested legislation. It was a letter from Michael Teodecki, our city engineer, requesting legislation to enter into contract with Timeline Construction LLC in the amount of $223,560 for the 2022 sidewalk replacement program. asking for emergency wording so they can get started with the repairs and the new sidewalks. There was several questions by Mr. Heidig asking what the property owner owes and then what the city pays for. We had 3 bids that were received, and Timeline was the best and the lowest contract. No pending legislation. Miscellaneous was the paving update, and Mr. Street had already sent the information of the streets that were done. So it looks as though we're moving right along on the street. And with that, I pass.
Thank you, Mrs. Angeloff. Planning, Annexation, and Codes with Mrs. Thompson.
Thank you, Mr. President. Planning, Annexation, and Codes met this evening. We had no new requests for legislation or pending legislation, so I have nothing new to report. With that, I will pass.
Thank you, Mrs. Thompson. City Utilities with Mrs. Coburn.
Thank you, Mr. President. City Utilities met last week in council chambers. All members were present. We voted on the legislation we had before us last week, and we have nothing new to report. And with that, I pass.
Thank you, Mrs. Coburn. Public Welfare and Safety with Mrs. Fry.
Thank you, Mr. President. Public Welfare and Safety met last Monday, September 12th at 6:06. All members of the committee were present, as well as council members as noted and guests as noted on my sheet. We had no requests for legislation. There was no miscellaneous discussion, and with that, Public Welfare and Safety will pass.
Thank you, Mrs. Fry. Rules, Marketing, and Development with Mr. Griffin.
Thank you, Mr. President. Rules, Marketing, and Development met last week, September 12th. We had one piece of legislation to call for, and that was a resolution acknowledging the decennial census survey results for 2022. President Greer requested 3 readings, so with that, I'll pass.
Thank you, Mr. Griffin. Environmental Health and Social Services, Mrs. Bailey.
Thank you, Mr. President. The Environmental Health and Social Services Committee met tonight in council chambers. All members were present, all council members were present, and all others are noted on my sheet. There is nothing new to report. We did have a little bit of miscellaneous discussion regarding the Mosquito Abatement Committee. We adjourned at 6:13, and with that, I'll pass.
Thank you, Mrs. Bailey. City Properties, Parks, and Recreation, Mr. Jaber.
Thank you, Mr. President. City Properties, Parks, and Recreation met September 12th. All members were here. All the council members were noted also. We have one new request for legislation, a letter from Don Patterson, Parks Director, requesting legislation to appropriate $25,000 from an unappropriated item in the general fund for parks maintenance capital budget. The general fund to refurbish the capital basketball court in the KFU Park. Emergency wording requested, and we also referred this to finance. And the motion was passed, and we adjourned at 6:05.
Thank you, Mr. Jaber. Finance and Personnel, Mr. Heidick.
Thank you, Mr. President. Finance and Personnel is calling for the following pieces of legislation. The first is a resolution accepting the rates and amounts of property tax as determined by the Summit County Budget Commission for 2023. The second is a resolution authorizing the advance of local taxes by the County Fiscal Office for 2022, tax year payable in 2023. The third is referred from Councilor Jaber's Parks Committee, is a request for legislation to appropriate $25,000 from the unappropriated item of the general fund to parks maintenance capital budget of the general fund for the basketball courts at McCafferty. All 3 are emergency wording requested. We also are moving forward with the approval of the finance report for the month of August 2022. With that, I pass.
Thank you, Mr. Heidick. That concludes our committee reports. Is there anything from department heads? Anything from council members? All right, I have a few things. Just a reminder to be sure to turn in a streets list to the mayor's office for the 2023 road program. They're asking for that a little early and trying to get that estimates out. We did receive the feedback or the wording for the levy for the ballot, for the police levy. So if you guys don't have that, then I can forward that to you. That is fine. That is the final from the Board of Election. So we did get the wording back from that. Last thing I have here is be sure to turn in your committee reports if you had your committee today. Nothing else from council members, department heads. For the mayor's report, Mrs. Eisman is going to be providing that report.
All right. The mayor wanted me to share a few words with you. He is absent from council tonight because he's meeting with businesses and universities about economic development along various industry sectors. He wanted to remind you that this Friday is the Walk of Fame induction, followed by Tusk on Tuscany. We have Mum Fest going on this weekend, and there are several bands that are going to be playing throughout the weekend. Change for Change is at the end of the month. It's going to be Friday, September 30th, 4:30 to 7 at Hermosillo's. It is where Thanos used to be. And the benefit is Dr. Hughes Healthy Hearts. The Sumo Barberton team is doing a heart walk. And there will be a ribbon cutting for a new business in town at the end of the month, and he said he will get council the information by the end of this week. And he is currently working on the budget for 2023, and we'll have budget meetings throughout October and November with department heads. And that is all.
Thank you, Mrs. Eisen. With nothing else, sorry.
There is
Let's
a
go.
ribbon cutting on Friday at 4 p.m. for Magic City Comics on Tusk, right
Sorry.
before the Walk of Fame.
Friday.
Friday,
4 o'clock, right?
4 o'clock. They were formerly Stuffed Genie, and they purchased Craig's old building and are reopening.
All right. Mr. Haddock.
I just thought something, Mr. President. Director Hunt, has that slideshow been emailed to you yet from the Lake Anna?
I have not received it. As soon as I do, I did send an email. As soon as I see that, I can forward it to you.
Could you forward it to the council?
I'll forward it through Laura yet.
Thank you much, appreciate it.
All righty. Well, with nothing else, this meeting is adjourned at 6:47 p.m. Hey, you got still doing Anti-pin thief. I got it.
Smart man.